Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and in today's video we're going to be showing you how to Texas rig. Alright guys, and so before we get into how to assemble your Texas rig, I'm going to explain for a second how you're going to want to fish this and when you're going to want to use something like a Texas rig so that you can catch more fish. Alright, so basically Texas rig is something that you're going to want to use when you've got a lot of grass and you're trying not to get hung up on it, whether it be grass, you know, wood under the water, a dock, something like that. Because as you can see, when I run my finger over the top of this, I'm not going to get hooked, and it's going to be the same way with anything like, I don't know, log, brush, grass, anything like that. It's not going to get stuck on your hook point because it's obviously not exposed. But as soon as a bass comes up and grabs it beyond this point, that hook pops out and you're gonna give it a nice big hook set and you're gonna hit them right in the top of the lip. Alright guys, and the first bait that we're gonna start off with is gonna be your normal Senko. And I'm gonna start with this one just because it's the most probably widely used bait out of any type of soft plastic. You're gonna find these no matter where you go, whether it be Walmart, I don't know, Academy, Bass Pro Shop. You're gonna find some type of Senko wherever you go. All right, so we're gonna start off by finding the flat end, which on this Senko is gonna be this end. And you're gonna want the flat end because if you go in through this side, you're gonna get it's gonna rip apart a lot easier than if you go through the flat side. So you get that flat side and you insert the hook point as central as you can possibly get it and stick it on about 1/4 to 1/2 inch, and then poke your hook the rest of the way through. Slide this all the way up to the top until you're gonna get to this gap, and you're gonna push it all the way past the gap. Make sure that you've got plenty of room and that the straight bend of the shaft right here is showing. And then you're going to want to turn the Senko like this. And then what you do here is you find where that hook stops. So for me, it's right here. So I pinch right there, and that's where I insert the hook through. Insert it all the way out, and then you just skin hook the Senko right there, and you should be ready to go. A lot of people get all worked up about the, you know, little bit of bend that's gonna be in it, but the fish don't care. They're gonna look at it and they're gonna think that it's gonna be a nice little bass snack for them to munch on. And you can fish this by just letting it fall. You know, it has this sort of shimmy to it. It sort of just waves on down. You can fish it just straight off the bottom. You can drag it along the bottom like you would a shaky head worm. I've seen people try and fish on top water. That doesn't work for me, but you've got a load of options with the Senko. All right, and the next bait that we're gonna be going over how to Texas rig is going to be a finesse worm. And so for the finesse worm, I like to use a hook that doesn't have as wide of a gap. So when you got this one right here, which I use for stuff like Senkos or like bigger baits, and you see when you line them up, that one has a huge gap to fit bigger baits in. But with the finesse worm, I find that you don't really need that. You can get away with these straight shank worm hooks. And I almost always like to fish it with a bullet weight on top, just so that I can really get it out there. Because a lot of the time, you're gonna be throwing this on spinning gear, and that little bullet weight is going to make it to where you can get all the way out there. So this is sort of the same thing with the Senko as you'll find with a lot of these. But with this, I like to rip off that first little part at the top so that you get a nice flat surface to insert your hook point on. And so just like with the Senko, straight through the middle, pop it out, slide it all the way up to the top. A lot of the time people get all worked up that this goes onto their line or it goes onto their snap, whatever, but that actually helps because it hides that knot, and that knot's not going to get hung up on anything now. And so now you just do the same thing that you did before, pinch where the hook stops, insert it all the way through, skin hook it, and there you go. Now with the finesse worm on a Texas rig, you can fish it straight off the bottom and just drag it like you would. I find that you can also fish these a lot like a shaky head. You can give these hops, and a lot of the time they'll hit it, the bass will hit it on the fall. But one important thing about fishing a shaky head Texas or a finesse worm Texas rig is you want to let them eat it twice. Because that first time that they eat it, 9 times out of 10, especially if they eat it from the back, you're gonna get them to bite all the way up to here. And if you set that hook, all you're gonna be doing is ripping it straight out of the fish's mouth. So you feel that first hit, you wait a second and wait for that second tug, and they're gonna get it right up here. 9 times out of 10, they'll pop that hook out and they'll hook themselves. But I always like to give it a nice hook set just to make sure. And I'll show you what it looks like when the bass decide to just pull your worm. Your worm's gonna slide down the hook, and it's gonna look like this when you bring it up, and you're gonna get mad that you just missed your fish. All right, and now on to our next bait, which is going to be the crawl lure. So the main thing about the crawl lure that I like to tell people is if you fish it on one of these straight shaft hooks, a lot of the time when you have it like that, all that you're gonna be doing when the bass are hitting it is gonna be squishing it up against that shaft, and it's gonna be really hard to get a good hook set on them. So I like to do the EWG just so that there's enough room for this bait to slide down once you Texas rigged it. And so it's just about the same thing as any other Texas rig. With these, sometimes if you got like a super pointed end, you might want to bite or, you know, cut the end of that off just so you have a flat surface. But this one's relatively flat, so make sure hook it through about 1/4 inch, slide it all the way up to the gap right there, and then pinch where it stopped. Make sure that your crawl goes on straight, because if it doesn't, then you might impede the action. Pinch where it should go through, stick it through, and then bury that hook point in there. And now you've got a Texas rigged crawl. And the places that I would like to throw this is into like matted grass, stuff like that, because if you put a heavier weight, bullet weight up here, you're gonna be able to punch this straight into the grass, and you'll be able to pull through it easily just because of the bullet weight, and should land you a nice sized bass. All right guys, next I'm gonna teach you how to Texas rig a Fluke. And this is the only one that's gonna be a little bit different than the rest of them, and how I like to Texas rig it. So you got this slot right here that usually you've got, you know, either like your jig head or whatever going through, maybe some attractant or something like that, but you're gonna wanna face that cavity towards your EWG hook. Again, probably about 1/4 of an inch. Slide it all the way up just like you would anything else. And now you can poke it through right here. And the good thing about this is the way it's different is this cavity right here is gonna make it to where there's a lot less resistance than you would have if you were burying it into something like a cross. So you can really embed that hook in there, and usually you'll be fine because there's not as much resistance for the hook to go through touching the plastic, because all of this is just a cavity and it's not really touching the hook or impeding your hook set. And I like to fish these weightless sometimes, and you can fish them just right under the surface, and just like a jerk bait almost. You can give it really quick twitches, something like that, make it look like a fleeing or a injured bait fish. Or you can throw a weight on the a bullet weight on the end, and you can fish it in the middle. You can throw it on a drop shot and fish it, you know, just a little bit off the bottom, anything like that. But this is gonna mimic the shad in the lake, or if you have a darker colored fluke that can mimic a bluegill, sunfish, something like that. But this has gotta be one of my favorite summertime lures, just because they just hit it in the summer hard. Alright, and for my last two lures, I'm gonna put them in the same category because they mimic just about the same thing, and you rig them super similarly. So you got your creature bait and your lizard bait. So you're gonna want the thinner style, just because the creature baits and lizard baits are always gonna be fish dragging along the bottom. And a lot of the times with your thicker EWG hooks, those are gonna make your bait sit like on the side, because that hook's gonna be down here, and it's gonna make your baits run on their side, and that's just not gonna be the ideal action that you're gonna want. So take your lizard and make sure that the eyes, if it has eyes, are facing upwards, away from your hook shaft. Go in about a 1/4 inch, just like the rest. And make sure that when you twist the bait around, that you're gonna be inserting this hook point straight, because that's gonna be another thing that's gonna make your bait run on the side and isn't gonna give you the best action. So, and try it about there, stick it all the way through, and then to expose that hook. And this right here is probably one of the best baits that you can fish in the spawn to post spawn, just because this is going to look like a lizard going right over that bed trying to eat those eggs or those fry, and the bass are going to go crazy for it. Especially the protective males, they're going to hit this thing like a truck. Half the time you don't even have to set the hook, because they're going to engulf this thing. And the same thing with the creature bait. This just can also mimic like a crawfish, something like that. But for the most part, it's also gonna look like a lizard, or creature baits, they just cover a wide variety of things. But they go into hooks similarly to the lizard, so I'm not gonna put that one on, but just keep that one in mind. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching today's video. And if you liked the video, make sure that you go down and subscribe and like the video. If you didn't like the video, leave a dislike and go down in the comments and tell me why. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.